Welcome to the Do Life in a Body You Love podcast. I'm Nikki O'Day, and we are going to talk about any and every topic that will get you showing up bigger and bolder in your life. Weight loss, relationships, mindset, it's all on the table. It may not come out real PC, but if you're sick of motivational rah-rah talks that don't lead to any real change in your life, then you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode. What's up, my lovely Do Life in a Body You Love ladies? Today, we're talking about purpose, and I'm probably going to say some things that kind of go against what you may hear other people speak about or write about on this topic. And maybe you'll agree with me on some of these. Maybe you won't. Either way, I would love to hear your feedback on this because I don't think that there's a right or a wrong way to go about trying to find your purpose. But I do think that we overcomplicate it and put unrealistic expectations on ourselves. And those things can kind of keep us away from our purpose or away from recognizing that we're already in our purpose, and kind of muddy the waters for us. And so I almost titled this podcast episode to stop chasing your purpose, but instead we're going with finding your purpose in the messiness and the mundaneness of life, because I really think that's where our purpose lies. And we have these grand ideas, right, of what our life's purpose should be, or we don't even know what it is, but we just have this vague notion that it has to be very, very big and bold and powerful, and that there's just one thing on this planet we're just supposed to seek with like this obsessiveness, and that's our purpose and our calling, and that when we find it, it's like unicorns all over the sky and every day is magical and we just can't wait to get out of bed every day and everything's perfect and wonderful. Or in the Christian realm of things, we think that we're just going to hear God one day go, "Hey, you get out of bed. This is what you're supposed to go do today." And then when we don't have that experience, we think that we're missing something. But there's a few things that I think we miss about purpose. And so one thing that I think we miss is that we don't just have one purpose. I don't think anyways. Now, might you have some divine calling? Sure, that's awesome. Might you have some divine profession that God wants you seeking, or some sort of ministry or something along those lines? Yeah, sure, absolutely. People get that, but not everybody has that. And even when you do, I think you still have multiple purposes throughout your life, right? So while you may truly have been called to your career, you are also called to take care of your aging parents or like whatever else you have going on in your life, right? And so everything isn't this big, grand thing. Sometimes it's multiple things all at once. Sometimes our purpose changes, right? What your purpose is in one season of life may change. And so we have to be flexible and willing to move and go where we're supposed to go, right? Now, the other thing that I think is true is that we don't get to pick our purpose. And that doesn't exactly feel very good for us women who love to plan our life. I'm a planner and I'm a control freak. And I know I have the best plans and we should just do everything that I want to do, right? Well, when it comes to your purpose, that may not actually play out very well. And that doesn't feel very great, right? We come up with our own plans and we're like, okay, God, if you could just sprinkle some prayer magic on this plan and make this all happen, that would be great, because I'm going to do some really cool things here. And God kind of just laughs at our plans sometimes. And he's like, "Oh, you're such a cute girl, but no, we're going to go over here and do this thing." Right. And so I think we spend a lot of time trying to discover what we want our purpose to be. Some people feel lost because they don't even know what they want their purpose to be. But I would say if that's who you are, you're a step ahead of the game. because when you think that you have your purpose figured out and it's because it's what you want to do, you actually are probably going to have to let that go because it's probably not what it's going to be at all. And then figure out what it is that God wants you doing, right? So if you are like, I have never felt like I have a purpose, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing, girl, you're probably a step ahead of everybody else. Okay. So no worries there. Now, the other thing that I think to be true about purpose is that it's going to come to you and it's going to unfold one step at a time. And so it may not be this big giant epiphany where you wake up one day and you're like, oh, figured it out. Had a dream last night what my purpose was. I'm just going to go get busy. I think there's a lot of growth that has to happen throughout our life along the way. And that's always slowly leading us deeper and deeper and deeper into our purpose. So how do we get there? How do we get to our purpose? There's not a magical formula that I've ever seen, either from the personal development space or the Christian space. I've never seen it laid out in my Bible that's like, here's your 4-step process to figuring out your purpose. Like, no, that's not a thing. But I'm going to give you 3 tips that I think could maybe help you get unstuck. If you're feeling a little bit stuck on finding your purpose, or you're kind of in a rut with things, here's some practical steps that you can do instead of obsessing about finding your purpose or reading a bunch of books about it and trying to sit and piece it all together over the weekend. And I'm not saying don't go read about purpose. There's some really great books on the topic. I'm just saying sometimes all you need to do is like chill out a little bit and maybe jump into some of these steps here. Okay. So the first thing is just being the best you. Has nothing to do with your purpose, right? But here's what I know. If you're working on being closer with God, then you're going to hear him better. If you're working on improving your own skills and characteristics and things like that, you're trying to improve who you are as a human, a lot of times your purpose is going to come from that. Okay. So if you want to hear God tell you what your purpose is, or guide you on your path or whatever, but you never spend any time with him, you're likely to miss it. Right. And so how do we hear from God? Well, that's a whole topic that I am not an expert at. I would recommend, what was that Bible study I did? It was a Priscilla Schreier Bible study, and it was called Hearing the Voice of God or something like that. Amazing book. But here's the deal. I don't audibly hear God say things to me, but I do feel nudges and like pushes and pulls and things like that. Now, getting to know God is reading his word, and it's spending quiet time with him, and it's shutting up once in a while instead of doing all the talking, which is clearly very hard for me. But my brain never shuts up, just like my mouth. So I just have to lay there and like think about a characteristic of God that I love, and think about the goodness of God, and keep my brain on him while I'm trying not to just sit there and ask him for things. You'll do you. But what I'm saying is, spend time growing who you are as a Christian and strengthening your relationship with God. And then just making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in whatever season of life you're in. So if you haven't had this grand epiphany of like, this is the direction your life is supposed to go, well, okay, that's fine. But you have responsibilities right now. We all do in every season. And so I think that part of our purpose is revealed to us when we're being good stewards of whatever it is that we're supposed to be taking care of now, because with purpose always comes responsibility. So God's not going to give us more responsibility when we aren't handling what we're supposed to be handling right now. Does that mean we do things perfectly? No. But are we trying to take good care of the things we're supposed to be taking care of now? So I think a really great step is just getting your priorities in order, right? Because we are all being pulled in a million directions. Like, we're walking around with these fancy $800 computers in our pockets, AKA our cell phones. And if we're not intentionally being sidetracked by them ourselves, then when we do have it put away and quiet, the notifications go off. And it's like, hey girl, so-and-so liked your post, or here's your email account telling you about some news going on over in the other end of the world, or this game app on your phone is dinging at you because you got more. I don't know what happens on games. Here's some more points for you. Come back and play with us. Who knows? I don't know. But are any of those things bad? No, they're not bad, but they are very distracting. So your phone is trying to distract you. Other humans in your world are trying to distract you, not on purpose, not because they're bad, but everybody needs something from you, right? And so if you're not setting what your priorities are and also following that up with boundaries, then you may not focus on the priorities that you should be. And not because you're bad or not because you're dumb. Like, this just happens to all of us. We can get pulled in a million directions. And so what is it that is of utmost importance to you in this season of your life? And then set boundaries in place to really focus in those areas. So just because a task or something that somebody asks you to do is a good and noble thing to do doesn't mean you have to be the one to do it right now. Like, you doing all of the good things that you could possibly do on this planet isn't actually good at all because it's taking you out of alignment of what you are supposed to be doing. It's wearing you down. So you're not doing anything well. You're just doing a million things crappy. And so getting very clear on what you should be focused on at this moment in time, and then just rocking that out. Right? Like, doing what you can do in the season that you're in, giving yourself some grace while you're doing it, making sure that you're still having your time with God. No matter how busy your schedule is, if it's too busy for God, something needs to come off your calendar, right? And so spending time with Him, reprioritizing, that's just like being what you can be right now in this moment. That is exactly what you should be doing. If you don't feel like you've been called into some great divine purpose, you're probably already living in your purpose right now. Like, the intention that God has for your life in this season is probably exactly where you're already at. And you're just looking elsewhere because it doesn't feel grand enough. But just get busy racking out what you're doing right now. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is being obedient to God. So are you willing to say, yes, Lord, when He does call, even if it's something that you don't want to do? So here's the tricky thing. We all want to know what our purpose is. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? But we all kind of secretly hope that it's exactly what we want to do, that it's always fun and exciting, and it's something that we see as being respectable and whatever things, right? So that's not usually how it works. It's just not. So our purpose isn't going to be God just coming along and blessing the exact path that we want for our life. Are you willing to say yes when it's something that you don't want to do? So is it something you don't want to do because you have a different idea? You have a different plan? That's usually why I am not obedient. It's because I'm like, no, but see, I have this plan all ironed out here, God. It's a good plan. Look at all the good things we can do if we just do it my way. And He's like, no, that's not really what we're going to do. And so then we push back, right? We say we want to know our life's purpose. And then when God gives us a little tiny piece of what we ought to be doing, we don't even say yes. Now, part of the hesitation there for me is because when I have had these nudges, like, hey girl, you're supposed to be over here doing this thing, but God doesn't ever tell me like the whole plan. He's not like, well, here's the 10-year plan. This is, if you do this, then we're going to do this. And then in the next 5 years, we're going to do this. And in 10 years, this is where you'll be. See, Nikki, it's a good plan. Just go do it. Nope. I've never once had the Lord send me a PDF document of what the 10-year plan looks like. I mean, if He would just do that, then I would probably be more willing to accommodate. right? Okay, obviously I'm being a jerk right now. That's not ever how it's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. Yes, the Lord is going to be a light unto your path, or however that verse goes. It's going to be a light that's about 1 foot in front of your face. That's all you're getting. You don't get the whole rundown. You're on a need to know basis. Here's what I need you to do right now in this moment, in this season of life. And you don't even get to know how it's going to unfold. You have to trust. So this is where faith comes in, right? Do we trust enough to give up our own plans, to be obedient to God, even though we have no idea what the outcome is going to be, even if it's completely contradictory to what it is that we want in our beautifully designed life plan? Can we lay that down and just say, yes, Lord? Because that is required for us to live out our purpose. I truly believe that. So the other thing that can keep us stuck from being obedient and saying yes, and therefore missing out on the whole purpose altogether, right? Or really slowing it down. Like eventually you probably get there, right? Because if you're saying no, or you're acting like you don't feel those little tugs at your heart to go do the thing, and you're just like, oh, just ignore this until that goes away. I don't really think that's God. Yeah, that doesn't feel right. I don't want to do that. You just keep ignoring it, the subtle little nudges. Then it's like, boom, boulder in your path. All right, little girl, you don't want to listen to me? Here you go. Well, I'm going to really mess some stuff up for you. And then you're like, okay, fine. So what I'm saying is eventually you get there, right? It just may take longer, and we're just delaying like this big, beautiful path that we could be on because we don't see the value in it right now and we're not trusting. Okay. But sometimes that lack of obedience comes from fear, and that's normal, by the way. The Bible talks about fear and anxiety like a ton. I don't have a word count for you. You can probably go Google it, but it's a lot. There is a lot of verses about fear. It's almost like our amazing God who wrote the Bible knew humans would face fear. And he is trying to prepare us for it. So when we see people being brave, when we see people stepping into these wild situations and being like totally obedient to God, it's not because they don't have fear. It's just that they're facing the fear. Bravery is not an absence of fear. Everybody feels fear unless you're a psychopath. And then you're probably not even listening to this podcast. I don't think my audience is comprised of a bunch of psychopaths. So you probably feel fear sometimes. Being brave, trusting God, stepping into it, even when that fear is there, is always going to be rewarded. If God's not calling you in to do something that is going to be of detriment to you. Now, it may not end with you having some giant mansion and an amazing boat and all of these things that our human brain wants when we make a life plan, right? It may not be those things, but his plan is going to be much more amazing than anything that we could come up with. Do we trust him to step out into these new situations, to bet on ourselves with God's backing? Like he's not going to tell you to go do something that you're not equipped to handle. There's always going to be a lesson that comes from it, or it's moving you into a certain direction that you need to go. But we just have to step into that, and we have to be flexible. So in the first tip that I gave you, being your best self, prioritizing whatever needs to be a priority right now. Yeah, that might include some life planning, right? Like, I think you should be intentional with your life. Absolutely. Because if you're not being intentional and you're not hearing some grand calling, well, then what are you doing? You're just like going with the flow, living a life of small little hits of dopamine, just doing whatever feels good in the moment. And that never leads to a happy life. Trust me. That's not an on-purpose life. That's not an intentional life. And you'll end up letting somebody else design your life, and it won't be you and it won't be God. So how terrible is that? So you absolutely need to be intentional and have a life plan. I'm not saying you don't, but in this other tip, which is being obedient to God, there has to come some flexibility. So sometimes your plan is going to have to change, right? Okay. This brings me to the third tip, which is gratitude, which if you've been listening to me for any length of time, you're probably sick of hearing because I talk about gratitude so much. But this is how you're going to even realize that you're currently in your purpose, or how you're going to be able to look back at your life and see, wow, I was really living a purposeful life. You may miss it if you're not practicing gratitude, because your purpose is going to be in all of those messy life moments, like changing the dirty diapers and cooking dinner. Don't feel real purposeful day in and day out when you're doing it, right? There doesn't feel like a whole lot of purpose in that. But of course there is, because what do those moments represent? Is it the dirty diaper? No, it's the fact that you're raising up human beings for God. I can't think of a more important purpose, but then half the time while we're in those moments, it feels mundane. It can feel redundant, and it can feel like, get me out of this house. Like, those are all normal feelings to have, right? And what am I really supposed to be doing with my life? We can have all of these thoughts, but it's like you're missing the fact that you're in this moment. This is what you're supposed to be doing with your life. And that's going to change. You're going to have different seasons, right? Maybe right now you're in a career focused season of your life, and God is teaching you new skill sets. And those can be personal, like maybe you have a crappy boss and you're like, why? This job is not my purpose. Well, there's probably a lesson that you're learning in the middle of working for this crappy boss. Maybe it is you're learning new communication skills. Maybe you're learning patience. I don't know what you're learning, but you're learning something from it, right? Or you can be learning actual skills. Like maybe you feel really stressed out because you're in a new role, but you're learning a whole different set of skills that you're going to need to take you to the next level, which is going to somehow serve you later in your purpose. So when God's bringing us into our purpose, it doesn't always feel good, because life's lessons never do. Let's be serious. Like, usually learning, especially if it's like life lessons type of learning, it doesn't always feel fantastic, but there's a reason for it. And I'm sure you can look back to a messy season of your life, something that seemed really not super fun to go through, but you can see how it either made you a stronger person, it strengthened your relationship with God, it taught you a skill set, it brought a person into your life that you needed. Like, something beautiful happened in that messy, messy season, right? And so taking a moment each day to just be grateful for even the weirdest things that may be going on in your life, that's going to help you see all of the purpose that you're probably already living and maybe missing. And I think sometimes hindsight makes it a lot easier to see all of this play out. So I suspect that we get to the end of our life and then our purpose becomes a lot more clear. We're like, oh, look at all of that. And I think that because I'm 40, so it's not like I'm old and wise, but I can look back to my 20s and the experiences that I went through then, or my 30s, and go, well, that sucked, but wow, that led me where I am now. And I had to learn those lessons, or I had to go through that to be who I am now and help the people that I'm helping now, or doing whatever the thing is that I'm doing now. So I suspect we get to the end of our life and our purpose becomes a lot more clear, and we should just stop trying to stalk purpose. Like, yes, try to live whatever you're called to live, but stop trying to force it, I guess is what I'm saying. It's kind of like happiness. Like, people who don't feel happy are always trying to pursue things that make them happy, but those are just like momentary things, and that they don't actually lead to happiness. Happiness is actually found with intentional living and growing your relationship with the Lord and accomplishing things. Humans love to accomplish things. So when we're just like willy-nilly, just doing whatever feels good in the moment, it seldom leads to happiness. So it's like this paradox of like, by intentionally seeking happiness all the time, most people actually end up very unhappy. And it's like, we just go do what you're supposed to do and you'll find purpose in that and you'll be happy. I think finding your purpose, quote unquote, is like the same kind of thing. If you're trying to force it and you're trying to chase it, you're going to push it away or miss the fact that you're already in it. Does that make sense? So I'm going to get kind of personal for a second here and share a little bit of my life with you guys to illustrate some of these points. Okay. And it's not to say that I have my life all figured out, because trust me, I don't. But I can look back now and see how God was pulling me along different situations. And by the way, God can use messy situations that you get yourself into for good. Okay. So I've got myself into a lot of stupid situations. And was it a great idea? No. But when you turn to God, He can use our messes to make amazing things happen. Right. And so I was a young mom. For those of you who don't know, I had my first child when I was 20, and I had my second child when I was 21. And at the time, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I mean, I was in community college, just kind of dinking around, taking classes. But I was like changing my major every 5 minutes. I think I had like 8 different majors, and started with nursing and ran away from that for a long time. And then went back and was like, oh, I really do love this job. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a nurse. So go to nursing school. Now, I have mouths to feed. So I wanted to go through the quickest nursing program that I could, which would be the associate's degree. I could not get in. The wait line, or the wait time for that, was like 5 years, but I already had all my prereqs done. So got right into university. All right, I'm going to graduate with my bachelor's before I would even start my associate's program. Fine, whatever, we'll do that. I did not give a crap about going for my bachelor's. You'll see why that's important in just a second, though. So I get into a program I didn't even want to be in. That's going to take longer and cost me more money, but it gets me to the end goal faster. So fine, we do that. Now I'm working in the hospital setting, and I want to be at home with my kids. And so I pursue network marketing, and I start with an organic skincare company, and I actually did very well. But then that company went under. So now I'm looking for another company to partner with. And I'm also struggling with my health, with my weight. I'm the biggest I've ever been, which was very uncomfortable for me because I had always been a lean person until I feel like I just magically woke up one day and I wasn't. I was like, oh, what do I even do about this? Because guess what? People who work in medicine don't get a whole lot of nutrition education. Newsflash, we don't really know much about wellness. I worked ER and ICU, so I was really good on that end of things, not the whole keeping a healthy body thing. And I was raised with junk food, pizza rolls, fried Addy on the counter, all that kind of stuff, right? So I had to figure out, what do you actually do to lose weight and become healthy? And then how do you actually change your habits and your behavior and all of this stuff? Ugh. So I'm going through all that mess myself. Okay, finally get a grip on that. And I'm with this network marketing company, right? Now it ain't working for me. I mean, I'm making a little bit of money, but it's not going to replace my nursing income, which I feel like I want to do so I can be at home with my kids. Mind you, this has been going on for so long that by this point in time, my kids are like young teenagers. So not getting there fast enough, right? Well, I find this business coach who markets to network marketers, and it was very, very pricey. And the things that she promised to teach us is not what she taught us at all. Now, most people would have went through the experience that I did and thought that hiring that business coach was a complete waste of time and money because she didn't teach me what she said she was going to. But here's what I did learn through that experience. I still feel like God wanted me to hire this woman because she is the one who helped me discover who it was that I want to be helping lose weight, and that I didn't want to be with network marketing, that I wanted to have my own company and actually coach women, which I was very opposed to doing. I had friends in the fitness industry who kept telling me that I was a health coach. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm a nurse. And they're like, no, actually, you're a health coach. Like, we call you for advice on how to coach our clients. So this is like, you're a health coach. No, I'm not. I'm a nurse. So I take this woman's course. I paid her an insane amount of dollars to not deliver what she said she was going to. But I discovered I am meant to be a health coach and have my own company, not affiliated with a network marketing company, to do my own thing. Great. So now we're going to move forward with that. Only I'm really good at helping women lose weight. Like, that probably doesn't sound very humble, but you know what? I'm great at it. I'm good at playing metabolic detective. What is your body telling us? Okay, how do we make these changes? Pulling the puzzle piece together. I'm great at that. You know what I suck at? Marketing, business. You guys, I can barely run my own finances, let alone figure out business taxes and like, what? I don't know how to do any of this crap. So here I am, a health coach who's making like no money. But I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I'm like, oh, all right, here comes another business coach. Once bitten, twice shy. I'm not interested. I see business coaches all over the place. I fully understand the need for coaching, but I've never found anybody again who I felt like I want to pay this person money until I find this other business coach who just magically shows up on my social media or wherever it was that I found her. And it made no sense on paper to hire this woman. None. And I had already hired one business coach and it didn't really work out. So my husband wasn't exactly thrilled that I was like, oh, this business where I'm making no dollars. Well, I'm going to go pay this other woman like $6,000 that we don't have. Oh, I'm going to go borrow it against my retirement. Like, it was a psychotic thing to do, but it was like, this is right. I feel it. So hired her. It was the right decision, made all that back and then some. Have a successful business now. Am I balling out of control? Absolutely not. But I'm at home doing this. The irony of it is that my kids are now grown up. So why I thought I wanted to do this was to be at home with my kids. Well, they're 18 and 20. They really don't care if I'm here or not. But now I feel like I have truly arrived at my purpose as far as my career is concerned, because I'm giving women a service that changes their lives. And I don't find anything mundane about it. I love it. Like, this does get me out of bed every day to do this, like, because it helps women change everything else about their life too. It's not really just weight loss. It's teaching them all these other mindset skills to lose the weight. They go apply it to all other kinds of areas of their life. It's truly transforming their lives, which how many other lives is that transforming? It's amazing. This is where I'm supposed to be. Now, does that mean this will always be where I'm supposed to be? No. So where I'm at right now, I have to be very careful to not become rigid. And, if God pulls me away from this to go do something else, that would like break my heart. I'm obsessed with what I'm doing right now. Right. But that could happen. And I have to keep that flexibility. So going back, I can see, like, would I have picked to be a young mom? Probably not, but I'm so glad I was. Like, my boys have been the loves of my life and they're amazing humans now. And that set me off on this catalyst to get my act together. I wasn't going to get my act together on my own. Trust me, you guys. And so that got me into the nursing profession, which I do feel like I was led to be there. Like, being a nurse taught me so much. It's a career that I thoroughly enjoyed and loved. And I do actually miss it. I just love what I'm doing now more. But I loved being a nurse. But being a nurse prepared me with the knowledge that I needed to learn about health. So go back to me not getting into the program I wanted. In the moment when I was 22 years old, figuring all of this out, I needed to hurry up and get through college as fast as I could because I needed the money, right? This was like an extremely stressful phase of my life, not because of my children, because of other things that were going on. But I needed to hurry up and gain financial independence and all of these things. And so having to go to a program that was another year long felt like torture to me. Here's why that was hugely beneficial for where I'm at in my life right now. The program that I ended up in was very focused on us being able to dive through scientific literature, to go through research studies with a fine-tooth comb. We had to do it every single semester. We had to take a research class, yes. But in addition to that, every semester, we had to do a research paper. You had to pick a topic. You had to go through every study that had ever been done on it with a fine-tooth comb and say, yeah, this was a good study. This was a poor study. Here's this study's limitations. Here's how we can actually apply this to the patient population. Like, does the study even matter? Is it congruent with all these other studies that we see? Like, really, really dissecting this stuff. And that's a difficult skill set to learn. And I'm not saying I'm amazing at it. I only have a bachelor's. Okay. I don't have a doctorate, but it taught me so much about science and the scientific process and how do we actually apply research. So when you see people saying, oh, well, this research study showed this, it almost always means nothing. Like, you have to be able to go through the totality of the literature on that topic and have a solid knowledge base about it to make any claims from one study. So that was important because it taught me how to dive through science. And I ended up having to do that to figure out how to heal my own body and how to lose weight in a way where we don't crash our metabolism and we don't jack ourselves up. And so I needed to know that skill to do what I do today. Now, in addition to that, this stupid college, I hated doing this at the time. You had to present your research paper to your peers. Every single semester was an oral presentation, which I hated. And I was like, all I'm going to be doing is sitting at the bedside, taking care of patients. I don't need to know how to do any of this stuff. And for bedside nursing, you actually don't. But it's a professional skill set they were teaching us because it was a bachelor's program. Mind you, in the moment, didn't care. Hated this. Didn't see any purpose in this. Felt like this was just stupid, busy work. But now I have to publicly speak for what I'm doing. And had I not had that experience at that college level, I probably wouldn't be very comfortable doing the things that I'm doing today, right? So what am I rambling about here? The point is, in getting into a college I didn't even want to be in, it was preparing me for where I am now. That pull into network marketing was getting me to think outside of the box, to think outside of having a paycheck, right? And it was leading me to a company where I would focus on health and wellness. And I was learning a lot while I was there. It just wasn't my end goal. So while I felt these pulls to go to these places, it wasn't for the reasons I thought it was. God wasn't telling me, well, through this nursing education, you're going to end up being a health coach. I had no idea. That had nothing to do with why I went to do it. Nothing at all. That's the path that he was pulling me down, though. And then getting frustrated with network marketing because I wasn't good at it. I just told you guys I'm terrible at marketing. So I was terrible at network marketing too. And so had I not been frustrated enough to pay this woman $7,000 who didn't even deliver what she said she was going to deliver to me, but had I not done that, I would have never even designed my own weight loss program and stepped out on my own in business. I never would have done that. I owe that to her. So did she deliver what she promised? No. Was I meant to go through that woman's business coaching program? Yes, 100%. I know it without a doubt. I have no bitterness or resentment towards that business coach because it led me where I am now. All of that oversharing just to point out the fact that I can now look back 20 years later at the very beginning of my career experience, right? And go, wow, okay. So all of the reasons I thought I wanted to do those things along the way didn't actually even pan out and wasn't why I was supposed to be doing them anyways. But there was nudges getting me to do those things. And I did them and I did the best that I could at them. And every step was one step in the direction of getting me where I wanted to be. Had I not had every single one of those experiences, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing to help women today. And now I feel like I have truly stepped into my purpose, but I couldn't have possibly planned that. I had no frame of reference for even being an online health coach. It wasn't even a thing back then. And it's nothing that I would ever assumed that I would do. Like, it would have never been on my radar. Had God said, here, go to nursing school so that you can end up being a health coach, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, that literally doesn't even make any sense. But how the plan has unfolded has been wonderful and a huge, huge struggle and a lot of frustration, but a lot of learning and a lot of growth and also a lot of fun along the way too. It wasn't all pain and struggling, right? There was good and bad in every journey. And this is where your gratitude comes in. You got to take the good with the bad. Without bad life experiences, we have no frame of reference to know that something is also good, right? It's this paradox. Good comes with bad. But are you willing to step out into new roles if that's what God's calling you to do? Or can you find the joy and the gratitude and all of the mundane things that we had to do day in and day out that don't feel very fun and they don't feel very purposeful, but they are, ladies, that is where our purpose will unfold. It's in the daily grind. I just gave you a huge overview of how my life so far at the age of almost 40 has played out. And I'm only halfway there. Who else knows what's going to happen? But when I was 20 years old, I didn't set this plan in motion. Okay. God always knew my plan. God was pulling me along the way. And a lot of times I was being a very obstinate child and being like, no, I'm not going to go do those things. And then we just delay the inevitable, right? So recap, let's bring this back to you. What's going on in your world right now that you can be grateful for? Maybe there is pain and struggling, and it's really hard to be grateful. But what is that experience teaching you? What are you learning in this phase of life? Or if it's not miserable, but it's just kind of mundane, you like the phase that you're in, but it's busy. And sometimes you don't take those timeouts to have that time with God or to reflect on the blessings that you have. Because a lot of our responsibilities are our blessings. And those can also sometimes feel like quite a chore, right? And so having an intentional gratitude practice, being obedient to God, being flexible, being intentional with your life, but also having flexibility with it. So I hope that this helps. It's such a intricate topic to discuss. And I don't even know if I got it right. Like maybe my whole life's purpose thing that I just shared with you guys, maybe God had nothing to do with that. And I'm a psycho who just thinks that he did. Who knows? I don't know. I'm happy with the way that it all unfolded. I can see where my pain or my struggles or what I was trying to accomplish in one phase of my life led me to a new phase. But maybe I'm getting some of this wrong. So I would love to hear from you. How did this sit with you? Did you have any aha moments where it's like, yeah, maybe I'm just pushing too hard, or maybe God is giving me nudges that I've been ignoring, or yeah, you know what? I think I am in my purpose right now in this moment. I don't need to know where I'm going. I don't need to know what the next season of life is going to look like. Sure, I can plan for it, but I'm cool with however it rolls. I'm excited to see this next phase of my life. If you've had any of those takeaways or you have something that you want to add to this conversation, I would so love to hear from you. You can reach out to me on social media. I'm most active on Facebook or right in the Facebook group, Simplified Fat Loss. We can have these kinds of conversations there too. Absolutely. So let me know. I hope that something from this resonated with you and gave you just a little aha, yes, to either settle in and enjoy the phase that you're in, or get a little bit more intentional, or maybe you need to be a little bit more flexible, or maybe you just need more God time to kind of sort through things. Whatever it is, your plan and your purpose is going to be beautiful. Whether it is some big grand aha moment that you have, or it slowly just unravels itself to you throughout life, like seems to be how it works out for me. But just go with it. Don't chase it so hard. Don't pursue it so hard. It'll be what it's going to be. Enjoy it because you deserve to be doing a life that you love. And so take the moments, soak them all in. They're leading you someplace where you're supposed to be, whether you can see it now or not. It will reveal itself in the right time. But relax and go with it, mama, and enjoy your life. So that's all I've got for you guys. I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. It is my mission to give women back the confidence that they need to show up bigger in their lives. Right now, the world more than ever needs women who are on fire and living their purpose. If you want to join me in this mission, there's a few things you can do. 1, you can share this podcast with the women in your circle. 2, you can join me in my Facebook group, Simplified Fat Loss, or you can subscribe to my newsletter at nikkiode.com.